Hey everybody, welcome to Spill the Novelty, where three girlies shout into the void about our latest book hot takes and obsessions. I'm Abby,
I'm Maddie.
And I'm Kaylee.
and this week we're going back to YA to talk about one of Maddie and Kaylee's faves, The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. It's been a long time coming, but we're doing it. So if you're already a Cardin stan, or if you're wondering what all the hype is about, like I very much was, here is the tea.
All right. So this episode is going to be a little bit character heavy, but we'll talk about the prologue first. So basically, short version is kind of complicated, but try to follow me. So a bunch of years ago, not really that many years ago, maybe like 7 or something, a human woman escaped fairyland, which is just called fairy throughout the book, so fairy, while she was pregnant with a half-fae child named Vivi, and who becomes Vivi. And then the father of this child, whose name is Maddox, finds this mother and kills her and her now husband at the time. And then he takes her 3 children, 2 of which are humans who are not his birth children, and takes Vivi to Fairy, and he raises them as his own. So that's just the prologue. Kind of a lot to follow. Personally, I really like how complex this setup is. I love how this makes the relationship between Maddox and his children really, really complicated just from the get-go. He literally has murdered their parents and taken them from their home. It's crazy. It is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was here for it. I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved the prologue. I thought it was fire. It starts with just so much action, because you really don't enter a YA book expecting kind of immediate bloodshed in this way.
Murder.
And so you start very quick, and you're very acclimated now to oh, okay, the Fae are literally insane. Okay, heard. Tea. And I think what's really fun about the scene too is there's a lot of space given to Maddox to feel very complicated right away about what he's done, and have a good amount of regret, but also he still did it. He still made that choice. It doesn't excuse him, but he's not a two-dimensional character right off the bat. And that leads into, like you said, Kaylee, their relationship with him as their father, where they're I love him, but I hate him. But I love him because he's my father, and he raised me, and he's all I know. And y'all know I was getting Vincent vibes all through this book, and I love Maddox even better the second time around. No. I was I love this man. I love this character. I'm so here for it.
Get out of here.
And that's the end of the pod episode, guys. I'm gonna head out.
We weren't even supposed to talk about this.
Sorry.
I don't even think, but
I'm sorry that you brought it up.
We need to now. Because how can you love a man that kills his parents and literally kidnaps 3 children? How does that?
Well,
I don't understand.
But, okay.
He raised them. He adopted them. He treats them really well, considering.
That's so cute. So sweet.
Listen, I'm not saying I want him to be my dad, but as a character, I love the complexity. I love that he does things that are really nice. That when Jude comes home later from bullying, he's name a person, I will mess them up. I don't care who it is. That's, I don't know, it warms your heart a little bit, at least mine.
He's very much lawful evil, I feel because he's even with his logic with doing this, he's even though 2 of the girls aren't his biological children, he's you are my responsibility now. I made a commitment to the woman that was their mother, rest in peace, at his own hand, and rest in peace, his own decision making. But there's something about him just being that, lawful evil of I'm basically loyal to my rule book. I don't know.
And
me every time.
His love is conditional. You guys are making it sound like he's this great father who unconditionally loves his children, but his love is very conditional upon the condition that they follow exactly what he wants. And then when they don't, I'm not trying to get to the spoil all the way to the end yet, but when they don't, he's like, all right, let's fight to the death then.
Well, okay, I disagree with you. I actually don't think it's conditional. I think if it was conditional, Vivi would have been killed long ago because she specifically does everything he doesn't want her to do. And he still loves her, houses her, tries to guide her, whatever. And obviously, like, the perspective is that she gets away with it because she's his blooded daughter. But even when Jude goes against him in the end of the novel, spoilers,
Yeah, we're jumping over.
Sorry, everyone. We're going right in the end of the novel, when he like wakes back up, Jude doesn't say like he tried to kill me. He just was like, nah, I lost. Like, you won. And honestly, respect, girl. So like, I think to him, like, this is gonna sound crazy. We're talking about a fictional world and fairies, okay? So like, this doesn't apply to real life. But fighting in combat and strategy and battle is a language for him. And I think him treating Jude in that way as an equal that he was willing to fight in a serious manner, I think is a great show of respect for him, from him, that he thought it, like, she was up high enough that she even deserved that. Because he could have easily probably just immediately killed her or just ignored her, honestly. What is she going to do, stop him? But you know, instead he was like, okay, you know, you want to do this? Let's go, baby boo. It's just how he is.
I think
I love that we got 2 seconds in and we said, where's the dad character? Where's the complicated father figure? And how do we bring him up immediately, expeditiously?
Sorry.
I still don't like him, but I think you're kind of right. So we'll move on.
I don't like him. You know, like, I wouldn't want him as mine, but I love him as a character. It's way better than just having a parent that everyone likes.
Yeah, that's fair. You love him as a character. That's fair.
Yeah. So, okay.
He's a little different from the Vincent vein.
Is it? I think I need to go back to therapy. It's fine. Okay, so our main character, now that everyone is intimately familiar with our thoughts on her father, our main character is Jude, and Jude is one of the human children that he kidnaps / adopts, depending on how you want to frame it. She basically, so her and her sister, who we'll get to in a second, are twins, and they kind of take opposite approaches in life. So Jude's approach is she constantly is in fear of her life, of course, because she's a human living in a world that is not made for her and where everyone else is stronger. They can ensorcel her, whatever. But she shows, or tries to show, only strength and power. That's her way of dealing with it. She's very much kind of like incorporated Maddox's philosophy of being like a war general and like very tough and strong and prone to like combat and fighting and whatever, as much as she can as being a human. And so she's very different, I think, from other female main characters that we get, which is why I like her, because we've seen kind of, you know, a very docile, fearful, anxious female main character. We've seen a female main character that's so tough, nothing bothers her, she's fearless. But it's so much more realistic when those two are one and the same, really. And you're kind of putting on this show to not be seen as weak by, or in a society where you're so the underdog and like any wrong move, and you could be told to jump off of a tower or something crazy like that, and it's just over for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I loved her. I love that she makes crazy decisions, but they all make sense for her. Like, she does things that I wouldn't do, but they don't annoy me because I'm like, Jude would do that. Like, she's a very well thought out character with like motivations that make sense to me.
Yeah, and the fact that she's so determined, you know, and has like her specific goals and where she wants to see herself in the court, but also, you know, her balance and her love and loyalty to her family. You know, but she's still balancing that with making her own way, I think. Yeah, and especially to have this in a YA character is really nice and refreshing too, because I think some of the new adult stuff that we've read has, you know, these more balanced women lead characters, but it's nice to see this in a YA as well, to be able to contain multitudes. So I liked her a lot.
Yeah, I agree with that. For me, Jude is in my probably top 2 of female main characters. I feel like I say that in a lot of episodes, like, this is my favorite female main character, but I really like thought about it for this book, and I think she and Araya from Serpent are 2 of my favorites because she is such a baddie. She's so strong, and like, I love that she has her motivations and she doesn't stray from them. Like, even when we later in the book, when we get Locke and she thinks she's like in love with Locke, and he says to her, he's like, so what would you do if I, like, I don't remember what he says, but exactly, but it's something along the lines of like, what would you do if I hurt you or betrayed you? And she says something like, well, I would kill you or something, you know.
She said I'd hurt you back.
Like, leave her.
I'd hurt you back. Yeah,
that was it. Yeah.
Like
and
that.
I loved that because she doesn't say like, I would still care about you. I would still love you, because that's what we would get. That's what we would get from Feyre, for example, from ACOTAR, or like a lot of the other female main characters. But from her, we get something different, and I love that. One thing I don't like about Jude, though, is that I feel like her motivation of wanting power isn't completely developed. Like, we don't really understand why she wants to become powerful. We understand why she wants to become strong and a knight and all these other things, but we don't really get why she, like, suddenly wants, like, she wants to be king, basically, through a vessel. But that's never fully developed for me. Maybe until a later book, but yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, Maddie, but I don't think that was ever fully sought out.
Yeah, I felt the same way, Kaylee. And for context to listeners, Kaylee and I read this whole series before, but it's been several years for me, and I think also for you, Kaylee. My memory is shoddy about like everything that happens later on. But I was also surprised that by the end of the book we were kind of getting this new piece that was like, I don't want to, like, it wasn't the same as like Maddox literally wanted to put himself on the throne, like very directly, right? That was his goal with Oak, with no other concern for like Oak as a person. And so I think Jude was different in the fact that it did feel more like she was putting herself in control until Oak could take the throne, because it wasn't something that she primarily wanted. It felt more like, I don't trust anyone else to handle this in the right way, so I'm just going to do it myself. And so if I frame it that way, it made more sense. But like, it did surprise me because I from what we understand, like throughout the book, she really just wants to be part of like the knights and everything to get people off her back. Like, please just leave me alone. I just want to be able to like live without being in constant fear that fairies are going to be trying to like ensorcel me and kidnap me and hurt me and like do these crazy things to me. So yeah, the jump from that up to royalty is crazy, but I don't know.
Agreed.
I guess it makes sense. I don't know.
And I wonder if that's maybe the line of logic there, is that they're like, okay, her being involved in the court in some capacity and, you know, being a knight or whatever, you know, being a skilled fighter makes sense to then also wanting power, even if it's like by proxy, pretty much. But I had that same feeling about, I was just kind of like,
this is a big
I feel
jump.
like it was mostly very reasonable self-defense and just, you know, being rational about her position and in fairy, and then it jumps. So yeah, I agree. That's a good point, Kaylee.
Yeah, because
I felt a little random.
Honestly, like I couldn't remember how Cardan ended up on the throne. I just knew he did from later books, but I was like, how do we not end up with Oak getting crowned and her just being regent for a couple years until he's like fully grown? Like the same kind of deal as Maddox, but different. So that's what I thought she was also going to do, is she was just going to be regent. But then that also didn't end up happening. So I don't know. It was interesting. She had me on my toes, frankly, at the end, because I was like, I don't know what Homegirl is planning or why. And I'm kind of enjoying it.
She's smarter than us, and that's fun. That's a fun idea.
Yeah.
She's a very smart character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have one more thing,
So,
Abby. Before
mhm,
we go to the sister, I just want to say about
go
Jude.
for it.
Um, because you mentioned Locke, Kaylee, and something else I really appreciated about Jude is there's not like a huge resistance to femininity, even though she has this strong desire for power and strength. And so there were several points in the book where she is actively like checking in to see, you know, does she look beautiful? Does she feel beautiful? Does she like her hair? You know, we are getting like commentary about the dresses that she's wearing and also the non-dresses that she's wearing, but it's not an unequal weight thing. Like there's this trope where the strong girl is like, I don't want to wear dresses because I can't run, blah blah blah. Jude is like, girl, I'll make it work. Like I love a sleigh dress. And so that
Put
to
her
me,
like sword under her dress at one point.
yeah, she makes it work, and she works it to her advantage. And I think reading it, especially in like my today grown adult brain, that felt so unique to me, especially in YA, to see a woman that was all of these things and they were never presented as competing with each other. She is interested in romance, but it's definitely not her top priority. Like she's interested in Locke until she isn't, and she's not worried about it. You know, she kind of has this interest in Carden, but if he's not interested in her, she's not like making choices around that, you know, like it's just kind of in her realm that she's interested in these things. She wants to feel feminine, she wants to feel beautiful, but like it's also not a priority for her. And I just loved that kind of like dichotomy of those things.
I think it passes the what is it, the Bechdel test of like you know, because a lot of YA doesn't on either end. It's like if you have a character, and particularly in YA, I feel like if you have one that's like super super tough, which is great, but like completely avoids it all, a lot of it's she ends up like impressing, I think, the men around her like just with her strength. So it's kind of like meant to be like, oh, she can't show femininity, which is taking that away from her. But then also on the flip side, you have this character, you know, like Bella that we love so much in Twilight, and we will forever stand. Obviously that's a completely different type of book too, but like entire existence is dedicated to a male character, like but it can be on either end of that spectrum. So I feel like this one, she likes the dresses and stuff because she likes them, and she likes to fight because she likes to fight, and she makes these decisions because she wants to make these decisions, and that's how she thinks. Like it is all for her, the you know, on either end. And so yeah, slay, love that.
She's slay.
And you know who's not?
Speaking of femininity being your only trait.
Nice, Bill. So we have Miss Jude, and then on the totally opposite end of the spectrum, we have her twin sister, Taryn. And Taryn wants to fall in love with a wealthy man and become a wife, and which, you know what, like, get your bag. Okay, I'm not mad about her getting her bag, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And I think I can speak for us in saying that she's the worst. I'm on team fuck Taryn, and I'm pretty sure that's how most people feel about it. Now, like I said, I'm not mad that she wants to get her bag, but it's the fact that she throws her sister to the wolves to do it, even when her sister defends her time and time again and literally puts her life on the line for her. So once again, we got beef with the sister character. I feel like we've done this through so many books, and I'm sorry. I want to love a sister dynamic. I like it in theory, however, in practice, they keep pissing me off. But again, that's kind of the point. So that's my rant. Anyways.
Yeah, okay, so the first time I read this, I obviously hated Taryn, but I didn't notice it as early as I noticed it this second read. But this second read, like, it starts very early because the little seeds are planted. Like, for example, in the beginning, I hope I remember this right, but basically Jude picks out a dress and Taryn's like, oh, I want that one. Can I have that dress? And then Jude's like, sure, you can have the dress. And it starts there. And then there's another instance where, like, they get in a little, like, play tiff, and Taryn like punches her in the arm really hard, and Jude's like, yeah, she punched me a little bit too hard in that situation. And like, so that the seeds are planted very early is what I'm getting at. And like, I noticed that I hated Taryn so much earlier in this read, and it just got worse and worse throughout the book. Like, she's so terrible.
Yeah. Okay, yes, I agree. I think Taryn is deeply unlikable, comma. However, that is why I actually liked this sister dynamic, because I feel like it served a purpose in the novel. She was a real character. Like, I feel like they actually had like a dynamic, believable relationship, whereas like it reminded me almost, like the setup reminded me almost of Phantasma, right? Where we kind of had these sisters and one of them feels a lot closer to the other, that clearly we're not getting that energy back. And in Phantasma, there was like this thing where it was like, oh my God, I didn't know you had these friends. Like, I don't even know you. And you don't get that as much with Jude and Taryn, because Jude's like, no, I kind of know that like I care about you and you don't care about me. And I've accepted this. So I'm not under the delusions that you're going to treat me like a human, but my value is on family. And so I'm going to keep acting the way I'm going to act. And so for that reason, I actually like their sister dynamic, but not because I like Taryn, because she's awful.
Yeah.
And I want her to perish in a horrible way.
Yeah.
Ugh. This is kind of spoiling my hot take, so I won't get to it yet. But no, agreed. I have thoughts on the other sister dynamic, which we'll get into, which I do not feel the same way about for the sake of the story. But I do think that Taryn is there with Jude beat for beat, and we like follow them as a unit a lot too. So I think that we see their development and that like tension a lot throughout. So I agree, it does carry the story. It's good for the story.
I think too,
even though she sucks.
It reminded me of kind of like the early Sansa and Arya relationship in Game of Thrones, because you have them both trying to live in this society, and they've chosen exact opposite survival methods, right? Like one is like, I'm gonna tough it out, I'm gonna be strong, I'm gonna learn how to fight, and da-da-da. And one is like, I'm gonna go the trad wife route and just try and like assimilate to the culture and blend in and make as little noise as possible. But somehow Taryn does it in a way that I think is just so much less respectable than Sansa, because Sansa never like directly throws Arya under the bus, whereas Taryn is like, I don't care what happens to Jude or how hurt she gets, I'm just out here for me. So tidbit.
The point of almost letting her drown with the what are they called, Nixies, or yeah, like just being like, all right, I'll take your deal, Carden, and
with like
I'll let Jude drown.
Like no objection even. Like she's like, yeah, I mean, you didn't even have to threaten me, to be honest. You can do whatever you want with her.
Yeah.
And to be fair to Taryn, I get that technically speaking, at least from Jude's POV, Jude is causing a lot of trouble for them. I get it. Okay? But that's your girl. Like, you should still care.
Your twin.
Your twin. And like, even in the scene, there's a scene where there's this one fae that like hates Jude, whatever. Jude falls asleep at some point and Taryn is there with her, and the fae comes up and basically tells Taryn to F off. And she just does. And so then that fae is able to like cut off Jude's protective thing. And his plan was literally to tell her to jump off of the tower to her death. And so she would have died because Taryn just left and was like, yeah, do whatever you want with my sister. Which, like, God forbid, if this was New Adult, something far worse could have happened, frankly. But it's YA, so she was just gonna jump off a tower. But like, oh my God, like she just does horrific stuff to Jude time and time again. So I don't know, she's very unforgivable to me.
She's unforgivable. Totally agree.
And even when Jude is doing things that end up getting them in trouble, a lot of it's like in the name of defending them, which she still doesn't go about it the right way, and she kind of instigates, or at least she like, does it in a way that's she knows they're going to get their ass beat, or at least an attempt. But it's not like she's just causing problems. Like she's trying to defend her and her sister, and get them to stop, like to intimidate them enough to hopefully back off, so yeah.
All right. Well, that brings us to another sister.
Another one.
So we're going to talk about... and then we're going to talk about another one. I'm just kidding. Just this one. So the final sister is Vivi, who is... I don't remember her full name, but we call her Vivi. but she's the half fae, half human that we were talking about earlier. Vivi, she's different from everybody, right? So she doesn't like Maddox, for the completely understandable reason that he murdered her parents. Duh. But she also just wants to like live a normal human life despite being half fae and having like these special abilities that come along with being fae. Personally, I know there are some different opinions, but I like Vivi. Like, I'm here for a girl that like has these cool glamoring abilities, and she's just like, nah, I just want to be a human. I want to have a human girlfriend. I want to live in the human world. Like, I think that's respectable. Like, she has her own motives, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't mind Vivi. I don't think she doesn't do anything for me. Part of me is definitely irritated because I feel like she's the common trope of like the quirky, like so fun, chipper, like I don't know, personalityless sister that I feel like we get a lot as like either a sister or a best friend kind of thing. But she feels so kind of like tertiary in the book that I didn't mind it as much because there was a lot going on with Taryn and Jude's relationship, and so the spotlight was kind of on them. So I didn't miss that. Like Vivi didn't feel like she was trying to fill a void that she was missing out on, because it felt like her void was very small, like in the corner. Vivi's just kind of here to be the reason that Maddox came to get them, right? Like realistically that's the only reason she exists in the book. And so there's critique there for her for being a little too dimensional, and I think they tried to fix it with the whole Heather plot line. But honestly I wasn't invested enough in Vivi to care about those. I very skimmed those chapters because I just found them kind of boring. But I think that was the attempt to fix the two-dimensional Vivi character, and it maybe wasn't the most successful, but I didn't hate her.
Yeah.
I like her in theory and not in practice. Yeah, I think I think the idea of having a sister who has ties to the mortal world is fun. It makes sense for the story. It makes sense because it, helps all the tension that they have of not fitting in, and then having a sister who the relationship's kind of complicated because she doesn't fully get it, and she can kind of afford to be like, oh, I just want to go back to the mortal world, like, and she is the actual blood daughter of Maddox, like she makes sense. But I think for that exact reason, Maddie, because she's kind of like you said, tertiary, like I felt like either I wanted more of her or none of her, basically. Like I feel like there could have been other reason why, because I think that there are two purposes that she serves. So like what you said, they needed a reason to get Maddox to bring them, and then also this like anchor to the mortal world, that there's this attachment that they still have, and this kind of complexity of asking questions, would they ever want to go back, and do they want to save mortals, like this tie to the mortal world. And I feel like that could be achieved in a different way. She's just kind of unnecessary, like so I was gonna dunk on her more, but it's not that I have a problem with the character, it's just the execution of like how the character is written and her place in the story just felt kind of unnecessary. Like either crank it up or dial it back and just cut her out. That's how I felt. So
yeah, I almost feel like there's just too many kids, because I feel this way about Oak too, and we don't even have a section for Oak. He's their little brother. He's so not in the story until he is. I'm like, I don't care about him. And I almost wonder, I'm trying to think, okay, no spoilers because Abby's new to it, but there is a spot later in the series in which the twin factor of it all becomes important. But other than that, I'm like, why didn't they just give Taryn's plotline to Vivi? I guess because it wouldn't have made as much sense, but it still would have made enough sense. Like, I like the dichotomy of, like...
You couldn't be twins.
You couldn't be twins. No, but she could be the older sister that's kind of the foil to Jude. And, I like the foil of, like, the Fae daughter getting away with stuff and kind of being more rebellious and, like, not being held to the same standard as the human daughter. But, like, did we need Taryn and Vivi? Like, or could we have done... something, or even if we just had, no, it wouldn't have made sense with Oak, never mind. I don't know, there's some kind of overlapping that I feel like we could have had that would have made this a little bit easier, because I just feel like there are too many to care about.
Or again, if it's like either there could be overlap, or you could crank her up a notch and just have more. Because the other thing too is that like I just stopped thinking about. I didn't really like the whole, or not dislike. I just kind of meh. Like when they go to the mall back in the mortal world and all this kind of stuff.
boring.
I was just kind of like,
Then
I was kind of
Target
bored.
and
Yeah, I
then
was like,
Bog.
I kind of wanted just to skip all of that. So I'm like, you could crank her up and then have her, I don't know, give her some more responsibility, give her some more plot points and stuff that might make her more compelling, some more tension there later on. I don't know, but yeah,
There's something
just
to be said.
wasn't hitting.
Go ahead, Kaylee.
The reason that I like Vivi being in the story and Oak are the reasons that you don't. And I think that's kind of interesting, because I like when there is there are multiple stories happening within a story, even if they're not super interesting. I like knowing that these characters have families and everyone doesn't serve a purpose. I like that element, and I like when we get the kind of more boring chapters that don't serve a purpose, like going to the mall. Like, I didn't love the mall part of it because it kind of takes the fairy fun out of it, but I don't know. You see what I'm saying? Like,
I do.
I like those side quests,
slower slice of life moments.
Yeah.
I
do.
That's totally fair. But oh, sorry, Queen.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think that we kind of get this set up to feel like she's going to be really significant, though, because it's all set up in that first chapter. Like, he's coming back to get his daughter, and then, by proxy ends up getting the other girls too. So even when we got the POV, like at first, I was shocked, and I did kind of like this twist, but I figured, we get this first chapter or whatever, and then we get right into the POV, and I was like, oh, we're not following Vivi. Okay, I assumed this was her story.
Yeah,
so I think
there's
that's
a world
like
where she's the main character.
Right, and so it's kind of like the setup, but I guess to be fair, they kind of drop that early on. So to your point, Kaylee, and then she can just kind of be like this interesting side character with her own kind of plot going. But I don't know. I think I was just set up to think that she was gonna be so much more significant than she was in the story, and then I just kind of got bored. But
yeah, even if she had maybe like some more impactful moments in the book, like she has a couple moments where Jude just kind of like goes to her when she's in like a tough spot and recruits her help, and like she does what's needed. Like, she's definitely more sisterly to Jude than Taryn is, but like it just didn't feel like she had a moment to really shine of being helpful to Jude, or like I don't know, but maybe it's fixed later in the series. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember, to be honest. Yeah, she's just living her life.
It's okay. You know who else is living their lives?
Transitions.
Yeah, our completely not tacky, sensible transitions. Okay, so obviously in the land of fairy, there's a royal family because it's YA. It's YA fantasy, girl. This is what you signed up for. And there's so many princes, to be frank, but the sixth prince is Carden, and he's kind of around the same age, or at least school group, as Jude, and him and his friends spend an alarming amount of their time just tormenting her. Like, years on end. They just have beef or something. They're like seen as human toys to play with. They probably shouldn't be in the same school at all, to be honest, but Maddox has this thing where he wants them to be raised like in the court and blah 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 blah. So they are. It's a very dangerous situation for them, because if you even look at like Carden wrong, he's gonna send all his little like lackeys after you, and do crazy stuff. So she has like a genuine fear of Carden. And I have a special edition book of The Cruel Prince, and I wanted to read, there's like a little author's note in the end, and I feel like it sums up this part, this version of Carden that we get early on in the book really well. Okay, so she has this part where she includes some deleted passages. And she says, one of the trickiest things about writing The Cruel Prince was to make sure that Cardan was actually awful and that we didn't see too much of his sympathetic side too soon. Anything with him in it was almost certainly cut for that reason. And that really sums up Cardan in like maybe 80% of this book, because he is deeply unlikable and cruel, and you see maybe like tiny little rays of light that you're like, is that something? But you're still like, I don't know, he ripped the wings off of like a young fairy boy for no reason, and that was kind of messed up.
Yeah,
that was messed up.
Yeah,
it was gory. That was messed up.
And and I feel like if you're rooting for them until you're rooting for them, I don't know how else to word that, you're kind of weird. Like, you got a weird like bully romance fetish thing going on, which no hate, you know, but you got something there. Maybe you talk to your therapist, but
yeah, because there's nothing romantic in the first parts of this book.
No, it's not. It's not romantic. No. I agree. It's a bully. It is a bully romance. I can't even truly call it enemies to lovers, because it is more bully romance elements. More bully romance elements. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all I can really say about Cardan for the first 75% of this book.
I do like, though, like you guys said, the like little indicators. So I think, you know, it's like the little moments of hesitation, or when he lets the other, you know, bullies, for lack of another word, take the lead. It's or when that scene happens where I think the glamour, or no, it was the fruit.
Yeah, she's getting choked.
Enchanted fruit.
Valerian was gonna let her die.
And she's basically like, I think, like stripped down to her underwear and stuff like this. And yeah. Oh, okay. Different. I might be mixing things up, but you can tell that like he kind of steps in to like draw the attention just to the two of them. Like, there's little indicators that he's trying to slightly diffuse it, but I love like how minuscule those details are, and how much it's in like body language and stuff like that. I just think is really good for the writing. Like, you can kind of start to pick up on it, but it's so subtle.
And she doesn't really fully put that together until the end, and I don't think we should be able to put that together, at least on the first read, until Jude does, which I really like. Because sometimes in books it's really like an enemies to lovers you read, and it's like, okay, you're not really enemies because it's clear that he's in love with you. But this book, it's not clear until Jude kind of like thinks about it, and she's like, oh, he didn't, like, he did save me that one time or whatever. And like she's starting to put together that he really wasn't trying to kill her like she kind of thought he was throughout the whole book. So I like that a lot.
I think they give us just enough that like on a second read I can read those scenes and see like, okay, he's having to act a certain way because this scene was initiated by someone with more violent tendencies in his friend group, but he still has to perform the way that they would expect him to perform, even though it's Jude, and he kind of has this interest in her. And honestly, and maybe this is just like my perception, and maybe Cardan himself contradicts me later in the series, but I also don't think it's like an insta-lovey kind of situation. I think it's an intrigue situation, because even in the beginning we kind of get these moments where the start of the series almost starts with Jude deciding she's had enough, right? And she starts acting against these bullies, and that is kind of like the catalyst for everything else that happens in the series, to an extent, I guess. Some of it is not her responsibility, but whatever. But she kind of has these moments where she's like, oh, it feels like Cardan is really seeing me for the first time. And so I do think there's a good chunk of their relationship, quote unquote, where he really did just see her as like a human toy to take stress out on, right? And like a good part into the book, I still think he thought that. Like, I think he doesn't really take her seriously until the very end of the novel, frankly, where she kind of one-ups him. And he goes, oh, this girl is not, like, humans are not exactly as I have been told they are. And then I think that's really where, like, he kind of always maybe had, like, this infatuation, but it's not as much like a insta-lovey, like, I've been bullying you because I want to kiss you sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't feel as cheap as that. It felt genuinely like he's a villain and he's a bad person who is taking out things that happened to him in a wrong way on people that were weaker. And now we're learning and listening.
Learning and listening.
We're learning and
He's
listening.
learning and listening.
That's right.
Well, and it's the, like you said too, like, intrigue, I think. And when they have the moment too, when she, spoiler, not spoiler, essentially kind of like kidnaps him, air quotes, like toward the end, and they're talking, like, he admits that a lot of it was like, he can't stop, the thing that he says about he can't stop thinking about her, and it like makes him it's like makes him angry. But it's because too, like, he's jealous of her in a lot of ways. I think that's where the intrigue, he admits to being jealous of her. The intrigue kicks in. Like, this is someone who he is like fascinated by, pissed off by, and then later impressed by. And that's what yes. And you see the little dominoes fall, but I'm
It's
here.
honestly
I'm here
slay.
for it. And some of the bullying scenes were crazy. Yeah.
One thing I do want
Like
to
the one with the
about, though,
water, I was like,
the water scene is crazy. The strip scene is crazy.
it is crazy. Yep. One thing I do want to talk about, just point out real quick. I don't know if you guys listened to the audiobook. I did this time. I read it like with the physical book the first time, but this time I did an audiobook. And the note where he writes her name like a bajillion times, the audiobook read every single time he like writes her name, and it, like, kind of in like a creepier kind of voice, and it gave me the ick. Like,
I do think
it
the
was
note
so bad.
The note was not my favorite.
The note's
thing.
weird.
I had wiped the note from my memory. I was like,
I wish I could,
but
I can hear it.
I had a very specific reading experience with that because I was reading it on Kindle, but now you can link Kindle and Audible if you have them. So I had them linked, and I was listening and reading.
Fun.
Which was tea. Well, you have to pay. It's if you use a credit, so you still have to pay for them both, Sag. But anyway, so I was reading along, and then what's really weird about that, Kaylee, is that I had the audiobook, but then it popped up. There was like an error message that popped up on my screen that said audio is not available for that page. So I saw it, and then I continued.
Oh.
That's so strange. Yeah, no, they definitely read it in this.
Holly
you guys should
that
listen
was
to it later, but it was the
Jude.
I just had to point it out. Every single one. It went on for like 2 minutes. Anyway.
Yeah.
Cursed.
Yeah.
That's Carden in the beginning of the book.
That's Carden. That's him. He's problematic as hell.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we ain't trying to say he innocent. Okay.
Nope.
Yeah, we're not trying to defend it. Yeah, Carden and the bullies. So we have them, and then Jude eventually in the book gets recruited by Prince Dane to become a spy for him. So we have this bullying and stuff going on. But side note, she gets recruited by Prince Dane to become a spy, and basically to ensure that he becomes king. And so the other spies in the group, who all have fun names, there's the Roach, the Ghost, the Bomb. We love it. It's hilarious. She's working with these spies, and when spying, she has some different little missions and tasks that she works on, but she ultimately finds out that Oak is the son of, is it Lirope? Is that how you pronounce it? I think so.
I'll go with it.
Which is Locke's mom, and Prince Dane. So Oak, who she thinks is like her, I guess, something brother, is actually, or however, is actually the son of Locke's mom and Prince Dane. And then the tea is that not only that, but like Prince Dane poisoned Lirope and tried to kill Oak as well, but only got her killed. So basically through spying, she finds out like all of this
instantly.
Very significant tea. Mm-hmm. Significant.
You're like third mission, she's a natural.
If it weren't for, the danger of it all, the, being controlled and the death of it all, I think this would be a pretty fun gig.
Yeah, I mean, it seems fun. It was a great time in the book, honestly, because I loved the side characters that we get in this piece. The Roach, the Ghost, the Bomb. They're so fun. Mm-hmm. I don't know. They're just they're just fun characters. Like, they're nothing characters, but they're fun. I like, y'all know, if you listen to the pod, I'm a sucker for like a training sequence kind of thing where she's like learning skills and getting better at stuff. And being trained in general. I liked that she was like disillusioned about Prince Dane being like one of the good ones just because he can kind of like be polite, and then like there's this crazy scene where he makes her prove her loyalty by basically like stabbing herself in the hand, and then she's like, oh yeah, he's crazy just like everyone else, and you're like, yeah girl, he's the third prince, like he's gonna be the king, he's crazy.
They're all messed up. Yeah.
So
all messed up.
Great arc, honestly, and obviously a good way for us to get the tea, which I loved. So
I knew you would love that, Maddie, because you seem to love like any like thieving, spying, any like outlaw bits.
I love a criminal.
So I thought about you. Yeah, you love a criminal. So I thought about you through those bits, but I also thought it was super fun. I wish we had gotten a little bit more of the like found family in this book, but I think we get that in later books. I can't no spoilers, but I think we do. But I do wish we had that had been a little bit more developed. This is one of those books where I will say I think it could have been like 30 pages longer, and we could have just gotten like maybe one more like spying bit where we had more like conversation between the Roach, the Bomb, the Ghost, and Jude. Like just a little bit more found family is what I'm saying. Like I love found family trope. So
I will say, so like the primary reason that Prince Dane gives for wanting to sign Jude to the team, or whatever the right verb might be, is that she can lie, which Faye can't do. So she has an advantage in that sense, and she didn't really use it that much. So in one of the deleted scenes, there's actually a scene where, and I don't know the context obviously because it's just like an excerpt, but she has to pretend to be ensorcelled by Prince Balekin. I don't know how you say it. I call him Balekin. She has to pretend to be ensorcelled, and it's like this very intense dinner scene where she has to like lick food off of the plate on the ground and like do crazy stuff, but she has to lie. And I'm like, I kind of wish there was more of that because Prince Dane signed her for such a specific reason, and she got trained to do like climbing and thieving and stealing, and I like that, but like I want more lying. Like if you signed her for lying, I want her to lie.
Yeah. So that's a really good point. I totally didn't think about that, but it's also a fun element that like Faye can't lie. Yeah. Because I don't think I've heard that in any other book that we've read. I'm sure maybe it's a part of like
the deep lore.
Not mythology, but lore. I'm sure it's part of like lore. Yeah. That stuff. All right. So that brings us to the fun stuff. So the bloodbath of the royal family. Like literally the entire royal family. So what happens is Prince Balekin, or Balekin, whatever you say it, he orchestrates the murder of a bunch of his family members, including like his dad, his brother Dane, who we were just talking about, and then he tries to get one of his sisters to crown him, and then she basically says, nope, not doing that, like offs herself to avoid crowning him, and then another sister is murdered by one of the spies when she tries to crown him. So literally everyone dies except for Carden, because what do you know? Carden is off drinking and having just
he's literally passed out.
Time. Yeah.
We should mention he's an alcoholic. Okay. Yeah, he's definitely like an alcoholic. Yeah. He's a drunk. And yeah, he says later that at this specific time he was passed out while his whole family was being murdered.
I totally forgot that. Yeah. I thought he was just like off drinking, like, oh look, there's another one that just got killed
with the tankard.
Yeah, this part was amazing. It was so not YA. Like it was very much like it was very gory. You got like the beheadings, you got the stabbings, the blood was going everywhere. The blood literally splatters onto Jude's face at one point. I think that was the beheading. Yep. And it is very adult or new adult feeling, which I love. I love when YA gets a little bit risky with like gore, you know? It's very fun. I know Abby was just over there loving it. She loves the bloody stuff.
Foaming at the mouth. I like feet for feet. And that's the thing too, is I love that not only because I love like a coordination scene gone wrong, just something like that, but the fact, I mean, God, so many of them, and you just turn around, or like the one sister like offing herself, and then the other one getting killed. Like, damn,
Yep.
beat for beat, and then to have that followed by the perfect little dose of humor, but also good plot point
Mm-hmm.
of Carden being passed out drunk. Like that shit was hilarious, and also made sense to follow up such an intense scene. But yeah, I agree. I love when Wyatt gets a little like that's the area where I want Wyatt to take a risk, right? Not as much
Mm-hmm.
for things like spice and things like that. Like that is very
Yes.
much reserved for an adult for a reason. But I think something like this, just that kind of like super coordinated, like
Yeah.
intense scene. I love it. Ate it up.
Natural one after natural
Haley
one.
knew that was good for it.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, boom. Yeah, exactly. Those hits were good too.
Yeah.
So yeah, ate it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ate it
Yeah.
up.
I think my favorite part about this scene, and like you get pieces of this later on too, but it's like, again, I think this is something that now that I'm older, I can think of it a little bit differently than I did when I first read it when I was like, I don't know, 18 or whatever. But like I read this now and I'm like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing for Balekin, and I'm living for it. Like him just failing and
Yes.
failing and failing in front of everyone and them judging him. And like they say later on, like multiple times, they're like, butchering your whole family, not a good look. Like Faye's may be,
Yeah.
you know, a bit risque, ruthless, but like
Mm-hmm.
you don't butcher your family still in Faye. You don't do that. And like then none of
Mm-hmm.
them wanting to crown him, like it was all just so embarrassing. And so I was like, I love this scene. We hate Balekin. We want him to suffer and perish. Like
Yeah.
that scene ate from so many angles. Like just the gore of it all, the political intrigue, like the secondhand embarrassment, Carden just not being there.
Oh my
It
God.
also
Yeah.
once again shows like how messed up this family is. Like this is what Carnan comes from.
Yep.
And I'm not defending his actions or anything like that, but it kind of explains a little bit of his twisted behavior because like this family they don't care about anyone in their family. Like they're willing to just like Balekin, just willing to kill his dad even. Just like that. You know, like these are messed up
Nothing.
people.
Yeah. And Balekin being
Yeah.
the one that primarily raised Carden. And like we get a scene earlier on in this book which is difficult to get through, where Balekin is basically just like beating Carden for no real reason. And that's kind of your first big hint, I guess, into like why Carden is the way that he is. But yeah, this just adds on to it when you're like, oh, this is the guy that Carden had as a father figure because his entire rest of his family shunned him. No wonder he needed to feel power in some way, and unfortunately the easiest person to target was a human at school, you know. And you're like, damn, that sucks.
Yeah.
And I just love too, even like as each like thing successively unfolds, when we talk about this book too really being good for like TV or movie, like you can just see this scene, I feel like. And I mean, you know, one of the spies comes and offs one of the sisters, she offs herself. It's just so well like choreographed, really is the word I think I'm looking for. And yeah, you don't get stuff like that in YA often. And
Yeah,
it's
good stuff.
Love it. Love it.
It's good stuff. Okay, so the result of this, Balekin doesn't get crowned, and the rest of the Fae Court are kind of like, this is so embarrassing. We're just gonna go, and we'll give you like 3 days to figure this out. And if you don't figure it out by then, you know, they basically said, ew, ick. This was an ick, and we're kind of like grossed out by everything happening. So they leave. Well, some of them leave. And then a lot of the other ones start feasting and blah, blah, blah. Just on food. Not on like each other. Well, who knows? It's a Fae party, right?
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah.
So Jude is basically like on the run. She's scared, obviously. And she ends up running into Carden under a table where he, I guess, presumably was passed out, but now he's like kind of conscious. And she takes advantage of this situation because everyone else is also looking for Carden, because now Carden is the only one that can crown Baelkin. He's the only living Greenbrier to their knowledge. So they need Carden, whatever. So she takes Carden. She said, "Come with me, drunk boy." And so she leads him and she basically kidnaps him and takes him down to like her little spy nest and ties him to a chair. He's very willing to do all of this. He's very into kind of the dommy mommy situation that's happening.
Oh. You know what? He's kind of right though.
He's kind of right
for that. Like, I think I would be too if I were him.
And Jude is scary. She's
kind of
a scary girl. So, yeah, she basically just kidnaps him. She circles back up with her spies, and they're like, she's like, "Can you just watch him? I need to go figure out a plan of how to fix all this." And so this part was really funny. I liked it. I liked having kind of more this like Jude and Carden together without the outside influences of like his friends that he feels like he has to talk a certain way with or act a certain way. Like, it feels very much like we kind of get to see more of the real Carden here. And we get tidbits about how he feels about Jude. And yeah, I was going somewhere with that, and then I thought about the kissing scene and I got distracted. They kiss at some point here.
And throughout this whole thing, like, Carden is so, like, minus where he confesses, like, that he thinks about her or whatever, he's so unserious. Like, he's just never...
He's so funny.
It's like a complete opposite side that we've seen throughout this rest of the book, partially because he's intoxicated, but also because I think this is just genuinely kind of him when he's like this. He just likes to have fun. Like, he doesn't want to be king. He doesn't care about power. Like, he just wants to, you know, mess around, have fun. And so he's just joking around the whole time. Like, he doesn't fully understand the gravity of this situation where Jude literally, until Jude has him, like, at knife point, basically, and is like, okay, this is serious, bro. Like, I'm gonna kill you if you don't, like, do what I say. And it's so fun. Like, it is just a very fun little set of scenes or whatever, but...
Yeah, you reminded me, Kaylee, he starts like tied to the chair and they're like, "All right, we'll watch him," and then she comes back and he's untied playing cards. They're like all yucking it up and having a good time because he's drinking just wine. Like been so unserious and chill, and like he showed them where the best wine was, and like it's all just very endearing. I hate to say it.
Even like what he wants, like he mentions like he wants the house of...
He just wants his house. Hollow house.
And then he says, like, I want all the... He mentions like the bottles of wine or whatever's bottled there. And I'm like, what? Why is that what you're thinking about? It's amazing. And it's very like true to his character. He's just he's just a kid. Yeah. It's
just a baby.
He's just a baby.
Yeah. No.
Just a baby.
I love it. And when she has him at knife point though, also love that for her. I love this moment where I was like, okay, I love him, but also this reminds me why I love her too. Just she's like,
she got the power.
She's just kind of funny, but also like, fuck you. Like, you're gonna do what I say. You're gonna get in line, and that's what you're gonna do. So,
and that's the other thing that leads to like the kiss of the book, right? Is like she's playing with the power that she has because she sees. Like, she's aware that she has him in her control from just, like, strictly she could kill him. But now she has learned an additional piece of information that she has his attention. And that's a different kind of power, right? And so she goes to kiss him just to kind of, I think, play with that a little bit. And then she's like, uh-oh, wait, that was fun. It's so funny. There's, like, one funny line, after the kiss where like they go into another room alone together and she says something about like once you've kissed someone once, the potential for another kiss is always there. And I just thought that was so funny because I was like, honestly true.
Right, like she's not gonna not think about that. I love that for her.
Yeah,
that was a really good line.
It was good food.
Good food. So then we get to the end of the book, and so which is crazy and fun in its own little way. So the book ends crazy ends with Jude tricking Cardan into becoming king in a really clever way. So after she basically kidnaps him, she convinces him to basically occupy, she says, occupy the throne while Oak is growing up instead of making him king immediately. So they're going to crown, she says they're going to crown Oak, but that Cardan be holding it in the meantime. But what she's really doing is protecting Oak and hoping that instead Cardan will like stay on the throne, and kind of sets it up in a way to make that maybe happen. And so yeah, that's our big ending. And yeah, it ate once again. She's very clever.
Yep.
I was here for it. So
yeah, I had no idea what she was gonna do or how she was gonna do it. I was fully with Cardan, and then which is stupid. I've read the series, so like I knew Cardan ends up as king, and I was sitting here like, how does this happen? I don't get it. Is he just the regent? And like I don't remember it right. And then finally there's like a line that's like, Cardan looks up at me and thinks that we're still on the same side, and I said, pause.
oh,
because you didn't tell me that we weren't on the same side.
Right,
so
I
I'm
didn't
just
know.
Confused. So it was really well done. It's just a slay. We love a clever main character. I love a plot not fully being revealed. I love feeling surprised and impressed by my homegirl. It was a good time, and I love Cardan on the throne. Frankly, if I must be the one to say it.
Yeah.
You know what? And she's right.
Even if he presumably like hates her because of this betrayal,
Yeah, presumably.
We'll find out.
Presumably, he definitely hates her. Yeah, for sure. The relationship is over. Yep. No more kissing happens.
Totally.
End of series. End of story.
Yeah. No more books.
It was a good run. No more books.
All right. It is time for everyone's favorite part of the pod, our hot takes and our pour-overs. I will start. Okay. Hot take, kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but frankly, Oak was not in the book enough for me to care. He plays such a pivotal part in the end by being like the lost Greenbrier and like being the key piece to like the entire plot of the story. But like, I don't care about that kid. I don't know. He annoyed me like a real life child. No disrespect to like parents and children, but like he just felt annoying to me the whole time. He felt like an afterthought, and I didn't care about him. It felt like, not to reference Game of Thrones again, but here I go. When Bran is crowned in the end as like the king, who the frick cared about Bran the whole time, bro? For what? Huh? He had one of the worst plot lines of the entire series. Like, are you yucking kidding me? Anyways, so keep it.
Yeah.
Keep that man. Keep that boy.
I thought he was like I was like, oh, he's cute. Like, I think this is a sweet little thing, but yeah, I didn't really wasn't at all considering his ability to
like he's a dog.
His ability to. I mean,
he's a sweet.
Just a little. He's a little pet. A little pal.
I liked that he had accidentally ensorcelled her once. I thought that was fun. I was like, that makes sense.
I did too.
More of that, please.
Something. Like a kid would do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay.
That's it.
I'm sorry. I was about to interrupt your pour over.
How dare you? My pour over is, I don't have one. I guess I don't know. I don't feel particularly like haunted by anything. Maybe you know what I'll say? My pour over is why Matic is a good father. My pour over is my thesis statement for that essay, which I will be publishing on Substack, and you guys can pay $50 to view it. Thank you.
Or that you'll be mentioning in every episode, like we do Vincent. Just sneak it in there.
No, real. Vincent will never die.
Start a little argument every time.
Every single time. 2 minutes in the episode, I'm like, let's talk about the dads.
Yes, let's talk about complicated father
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That's my pour over.
So. Okay. I don't have a pour over either, so I'll just do my hot take.
Why Maddie is a bad father. You can also subscribe to get Kaylee's essay on Substack for $60.
Yes. $60. A book.
Gosh. But you have to publish yours first, so I can argue with every single one of yours.
Okay. You'll use me as a reference, but only to argue it. Love it. Love it.
Yes.
You still have to pay the $50
okay.
though.
Yep. My hot take is that the kiss was gross and random, and I hate it. Why did we need to throw in a kiss in this book? This book is not a romance, first of all. It's not a romantasy. Like, I think the romantasy happens later in the series, but I don't think this book needed to be romantic at all. Kind of going off of what we were saying, like, Jude is only just now realizing that Cardan may not be who she thinks she is, and then suddenly they just, like, look at each other and have this kind of weird moment, and then they just kiss, and it's just unnecessary to the story. It feels rushed. It doesn't feel like something that would happen naturally, like to go from a bully, an enemy, to kissing. There has to be an in-between stage, in my opinion, and she's also in a weird position of power over him at this point. Like, the power dynamic has completely flip-flopped, and so it is weird. It gives me the ick, and that's my hot take. So,
yes.
I don't know what it says about me then.
Yes, and that's why.
Yes, and.
I think
I was about to say,
I mean, it did surprise me. I forgot there was a kiss in this book. It did surprise me. However, I think her being in a position of power is exactly why it happens, because she realizes she has the upper hand on him in this other arena, and I think she kind of oopsie daisies into actually being into the kiss herself, because she also can't stop thinking about Cardan. Frankly, she's obsessed with that man. Yeah, I don't know. Like you said, Abby, I don't know what it says about me, but I into her.
I do think the position of power would be weird if he hadn't. Like, he does admit, though, that, you know, that he can't stop thinking about her, that he's kind of obsessed with her, basically.
Right.
But then it's kind of a fun, for me, it was kind of like a fun, like, I'll fuck with him.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're obsessed. Okay, well then, then watch this. How are you gonna react to this? And then she's like, oh, it unlocked something.
See, I fear it unlocked something. Exactly. And I think this is another situation in which I should acknowledge this is fantasy and a book and does not apply to real life. Because I agree the situation is icky, and I don't think I don't think kidnappers should kiss the kidnapped, okay? I think he's being taken advantage of. However, for the purposes of this book, I think Cardan consented to being taken advantage of.
He did. I wasn't saying that at all. Now that I think about it the way you guys are thinking about it, like from the perspective of, oh, she's messing with him and trying to like get at him, I like it much better, because I was thinking of it more of as like sudden romance.
Yeah.
Very like suddenly we're into each other, and it was weird to me. Yeah. So I like that a lot better, and I think you're right. So yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah. And yeah, no pour over. So Abby, it's all you.
All right. What do I have? I already kind of talked about it, but I said Vivi for the purpose within the book. Not as a character, but for the purpose that they served, Vivi might have annoyed me more than Taryn. I get both of their motivations, but at least Taryn's betrayal was like interesting and served. We talked about this. It served a purpose. Vivi was just kind of like there. I was like, well,
stop hedging. Just say you wish Vivi would have died and be done with it.
You're being
I wish Vivi wouldn't have been in the book. I wish Vivi ceased to exist.
Damn.
Just erase her.
You delete.
Erase. Yeah. Delete. Yeah.
I love it. I love the Abby sister hatred.
I do too.
I do. I'm like, I agree
that you have a sister in real life.
Served her purpose. I just have just my brother who.
Just a brother.
Rise him in my own way, but yeah. Sorry, Vivi. Pour over is also my favorite part. The coronation scene gone wrong. We already talked about it.
I'm so shocked.
So shocked.
Honestly, so shocked.
So shocked.
Love it. Obsessed. I need someone to make a. I need it in TV now, expeditiously.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay, that brings us to our final segment, ratings and favorite parts. So my rating, I had 4.8. I'm gonna go 4.7 out of 5 for some of the reasons we just talked about. I did love it even more the second time that I've read it. And I think the first time I might have given it a 4 out of 5. I can't remember. But my favorite part is where Carden admits to Jude that he thinks about her, even though he wishes he didn't, and that he said it's disgusting or something like that. And I loved that quote. I thought it was so cute. I have it in my notes somewhere. That's my favorite part.
Slay. I gave her a 5 out of 5. I'm not here to think too hard. I love this book. I loved it even more the second time around. I think about Carden on the regular. I think about Jude on the regular, for that matter. It's a slay for me. It's a good book. My favorite part, it was probably also your favorite part, Kaylee, but for the sake of intrigue, I also really liked the Jude and Maddox fight scene. Because I was like, okay, girl, slay. And then she was losing, and I was like, okay, girl, slay. And then he was poisoned, and I said, okay, girl, slay. So it was like a whole roller coaster of emotions.
The journey.
Yeah. I was like, oh, we're going to win.
That was a good one.
We're going to lose. Oh, we won. We cheated. Yep. Yay.
Yeah.
We
all
love
the family
cheater.
dueling. Like, okay. Drama, real drama.
Real drama. Real tea.
Real tea. My rating, I'd say 4.7 or 4.8 out of 5. Literally the only just
not Vivi
small
bringing
things,
it down.
but I'm really yeah, Vivi dropped me 0.3. Sorry, bitch. Can't stand. But because no, I guess she's in the next one. I don't know. The other ones could easily be 5 out of 5s because I'm excited for the rest of the series. So. You already know what my favorite part is already, so I've already talked about it like 10 times in this episode, so yeah.
Slay.
That's
all right.
Slay.
If everyone has said their piece, that is all the tea that we have on the Cruel Prince. Next time, we are continuing the Cruel Prince train, and we are going to be reading The Wicked King because we could not stop. We all just got on the call and we said, I want to read the next one. And we said, you know what? Let's do it. You can stay up to date with the latest tea on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube by following us at Spill the Novelty on all of the things. And while you're there, please let us know your hot take. Did you like the kidnap kiss? Okay. Are you feeling controversial like us? What did you think about Carden and his bullying? Do you think that little boy's wings grew back? We need to know.
That's a good one. Ponder on
definitely no.
I fear they did not. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.